Isaiah 61. Do you know that Isaiah 61 conference is not for the mature? It's for people to get mature. So you want to get people to get saved and then bring them to 61 and get mature, right? Say amen. This is an interactive night, you know. Sometimes when people are preaching, they want you to just be quiet, but I want you to interact. I love it, and I'm going to give you some special places to do that. So anyway, I'm going to get moving on here. You know, Roger, how I even ended up being up here tonight was because, was it like 2 weeks ago that we got together with Pastor Dave? Roger's back there. That's why I'm looking back here. And so is his beautiful wife. Will you stand up? Yes. I was thinking that you guys should probably have a honeymoon suite, but then I heard you brought your friends with you too. So friends, stand up. We're glad. Awesome. We love, I've only really ever met Roger, and I already love him. A couple weeks ago, I was invited to be in a meeting with Roger and Dave, and I think Stephanie was there, and myself, and they began to talk about the vision for this Evangelism Explosion. And Roger started sharing his prison stories and his filling these stadiums and the kind of stuff we heard about last week. Didn't that just blow your mind? Doesn't that make you say, Father, we want to fill the stadiums here? Is that light supposed to come on like that right now? Am I going to get used to that? It just came on. I feel like, okay. Anyway, when Roger was sharing this stuff, you know, I'm 67. I'm super young. John is 71, and he's super young. And we have lots more life in us. So several years ago, I had a prophetic word. Somebody prayed over me, and they said, you are like a firebrand. You are to go lighting fires everywhere you go. Everyone you touch, just light fires. That word was not just for me. Will you touch the person next to you and say, you are a firebrand. You are to light fires everywhere you go. You know, I think about this in the Bible when, who was it that said, silver and gold have I none? John's my backup drive. Peter, okay. So he said, silver and gold have I none, but what I have, I give you. And I have a fire, and I'm giving it to you. Okay? Okay. So anyway, that's the reason I'm here tonight. I mean, you're wondering why I'm here and why I'm not Roger, in case anybody here thought. I'm not Roger. But why am I here tonight? Let's go to the next slide. What do you see up there? You see a 6. But if you're standing from this side, looks like a 9. The reason I'm here tonight is because when we look at things from a different angle, one person sees a 6, one person sees a 9. They're both correct. It just depends on how you're looking at it. Let's go to the next slide. We're going to talk about, we're going to talk about fishing. It's called angling. Angling from a different angle. Last week, Roger shared with you a very direct angle, right? Anybody find, I've talked to several of you, you were excited about going out and trying it this week. Some of you said it was awesome. It was great. A couple people said, I probably need to practice this a little bit more, you know? You might be in between there somewhere. But I think of it like that spear fisherman. You like that, Roger? It's like, you're going right for the throat. I mean, you're right for the heart. Heart. I meant heart. Okay. So Roger showed us a direct approach that's extremely helpful for the kind of audience that he's going after. These were people in prisons, people in the streets. You know, he shared his vision. He went in a lot of those areas. He went and knocked on doors and met with government officials and people, and he found out what are the needs in the area. They prayed for that stuff. This was prayed over before they went for the jugular. I mean the heart. Is that right? Am I telling the truth? So tonight, I'm going to show you an intentionally indirect way to approach people. Relationally, to be able to approach your friends, your neighbors. It's a different audience, right? It's a different audience. If you use the wrong approach, if you're fishing, and we're going to talk about that, if you use the wrong bait, the wrong lure, the wrong stuff, I mean, if you're trolling or you want to get trolling gear, anybody raise your hand if you know what trolling is? Okay, that means that it's pulling through the water and the little guy's going like this. If you try doing that, but you're in a pond, you can't, first of all, you can't put your boat in there, you know. So there's just things you have to know. So don't get me wrong, I absolutely love the high that I get going cold calling and doing, you know, straight up witnessing to people that I don't even know. In fact, when we were in that meeting, it was just 4 of us, and I remember raising my hand. Roger, you probably thought I was kind of goofy raising my hand. There's only 4 people in the room. But I was like, I want to go with you. I want to go to the mayor. I want to go to the businesses. I want to knock on those doors. That's how I'm made. I want to do it. I love it all. But I also know that that kind of approach can be really intimidating for some people. Some of you would be like, that's cool. You and Roger can go do that. But I'm not cut out for that. And I just want you to put your hand on your heart right now and say, God cut me out to reach the lost. I just might do it a little differently. Is that right? Okay. I used to be in sales, and I went into management. I did a lot of recruiting and training, and it was really awesome to me to take a brand new person, maybe a young person that had never been in sales before. And they would come in excited. They're going to learn how to do this. They're going to make a ton of money, and they're going to do all this stuff. And I'd take them through training, and they were always really excited and smiling big during training. And then comes the day we are going to go out into the street, and we're going to start doing some stuff. And I would see the whites of their eyes. I had never seen them before. And people were fearful, and they were scared. And so what was really cool to me is that we would give them a taste of that, but then we'd pull them back in and talk a little bit more about training, a little more training. And what was so beautiful to me was to take a person that had fear and replace fear with a confidence. To know, okay, I know how to do this. I know what they're going to say to me, so I'm not afraid if they're going to object. I know how to handle it. In fact, what I really love is when a new person would say, yeah, just throw some objections at me. Just do it. Throw them at me. And they would want to role play because they were getting excited about, I know the answer. And you know that we know the answers. They're all in the book. And we know that we have the hope that people don't have. So anyway, this is really cool. You know, I put my time on here to try to be at a certain place. Remember I told you, John? I'm on time. This is cool. You know, for me, soul winning has been pretty natural. It's kind of come easy to me. Getting people to open up for me isn't really hard. In fact, I come home and tell John stuff, and he just shakes his head like, how in the world did you find all that out about him? You were only with him for like 4 minutes, and I know everything about him. Well, I've learned that asking questions gets lots of stuff out of people. You know, telling people things, even if it's your kids, you'll get a whole lot more out of people if you ask them things than if you tell them things. So I'm going to kind of lead you down a way of asking some questions tonight. So let's go to the next slide. This is my friend
Hello,
Rahel.
y'all.
Oh, can we pause that for just a second? Don't. Just a second. This is my friend Rahel. And she's a super good example of what I want to share with y'all. She's from Texas, y'all. On how I was intentionally indirect with her. I want you to listen to what she's going to tell you, and then we'll talk about it for a quick second afterwards. Go.
Hello, y'all. I wanted to share my story with Linda. She walked me to my salvation, through my salvation, and then discipled me on the other side of it, really without me really knowing what was going on or what she was doing. And I come from a very colorful background, from many different religions and experiences in churches, to witchcraft and divination. And she, after church one day, we just had some extra time, and we sat down, and she asked me so many questions about myself and my background and my experience and, my walk with the Lord. And I remember leaving that conversation thinking no one really had ever sat me down and asked me questions and asked me where I had been and where I was going. And that next week, I said my salvation prayer in church, and I told Linda, and she was so excited for me, and I really was so excited. And then after that, she continued to speak to me about the Lord and about salvation and walking with the Lord. But it wasn't like she didn't come with a whole bunch of scriptures. She spoke to me like a friend, like a mother. I say that she's my spiritual mother, because she just speaks with her heart. She lets the Holy Spirit lead her, and it is just so authentic and genuine, and there's like no pressure, and it's always like I always feel refreshed and renewed and inspired and enlightened by what the Holy Spirit leads her to tell me and share with me and communicate with me. And she's always just pointing me to the Lord in all of our conversations, and I am just so grateful for her. I know that I would not be the believer that I am today if Linda hadn't just sat down and talked to me like a friend and someone who just cares for people's heart and for their eternal life. And it was just the most beautiful thing.
I hope you hear that as a commercial for God. That you hear it as it's not really about me. I know I was involved. But what she was saying is that she hadn't had anybody listen to her before. Have you ever felt like you were unseen? There's people all over that feel unseen. They just need somebody to see them. You know how you can make somebody feel seen? Is to look in their eyes, ask them a question, keep looking in their eyes while they answer it. That seems really simple. But how many of you have ever had somebody ask you a question, like they might say, "How are you doing?" And you are thinking, do they really want to hear? And then you think, well, I think they really want to hear. So you go to tell them, and they're looking off somewhere else. Say, put your hand on your heart. God, I don't want to get caught doing that again. If I ask somebody how they are, I commit to look in their eyes to hear how they are. I want to, was it, gosh, I need my back drive, John. My back, who was it that said she wasn't seen in the Bible? Hagar. There's people who just don't feel seen. We want to be people. If you want an evangelism explosion, if you want to lead people to the Lord, they have to feel seen. They have to feel seen. And being listened to makes people feel seen. So, just one quick thing I wanted to say. She texted me. I said, hey, I'm doing this little workshop. Would you like to say something like you told me in a text the other day? And she said, sure, I'll make you a video. Boom, off this came. But she wrote me back, and she texted, and she said, she did 2 of them. I won't play the other one. It was very similar. But she said, I think the one component of you offering for us to pray together, you said to me, we could do it right now. I told her, we can do it right now. She said, I think that's a valuable part. I wasn't ready to do it right now. But I heard everything you said. And I shared with her, and I said, I'd like to pray for you. So I did pray for her, but I didn't pray the prayer of salvation. But her heart got ready. Her soil was turned up. Who cares if I prayed the prayer and led her to the Lord? Doesn't matter. I just told her some stuff and let her be seen. And that week in church, like many, many, many times, she'd been there 2 years. Pastor frequently gave an altar call and had people, would everybody just say this together? She never said it for 2 years till after we had that talk. There's people in Glad Tidings that maybe have never said that. And God's going to show you some of those people. Okay, I'm going to get moving here. Look at that. Let's all celebrate Rahel's eternity. Amen. You know, in the parable of the shepherd who had 100 sheep, and one was lost, Jesus called his friends and his neighbors, and he said, rejoice with me, for I found my lost sheep. So when somebody gets saved, it's perfectly fine to grab your friends, grab your neighbors, and say, rejoice with me. Rahel got saved. It says eternal life. Okay, we're going to just jump in here, and like I said, this is going to be interactive, but I'm going to tell you just a few things first, okay? So follow me. We're going to go straight into this scripture. It's about the hate's going to turn up here. In Matthew 4:19, most of us know the story of Jesus walking along the Sea of Galilee where he called out to Simon Peter and his brother Andrew. And he said, what did he say? Let's go, to that slide. Thank you. He said, what did he say? He said, follow me and I'll make you fishers of men. When I read stuff like this, it's a simple thing. It's been said bazillions of times. But I just think, what's it really saying? What does it really mean? If I said, hey, would you follow me? Come here. Would you follow me? Just follow me. Is he following me? Is he following me? Okay, go. Is he following me? Okay. Is he following me? Hey, thank you. Thank you. He didn't say, go ahead of me, beside me, or anything. He said, follow me. What does that mean? He wants you to step in his steps. Do what he does. Yes. So that's a key thing. We all say he's going to make us fishers of men. No. You have to follow him. And then he'll make you fishers of men. But we can't go that far yet because make means something too. What does make mean? If you look in the Greek, the word make is kind of got a continuum to it. It's like a process. So when I'm going to make you a fisher of men, it means that you're not really going to stay the same. I'm going to make you into something. If you go to Mark kind of says it a little tiny bit differently, but he says in Mark 1:17 that Jesus said, come unto them, and he says, it's my typing, he said, come after me, and I will make you to become fishers of men. So doesn't that sound different? It's a process. It's a process, yeah. You know, there's another scripture that says to be filled with the Spirit, speaking to yourselves in psalms and hymns and spiritual songs. But if you go in and you look at what that word be filled means, you know, we just say it, be filled. But the word filled means a continuum. It's a process. It's a continual filling. So he's actually saying in the Greek, be ye, if you were reading King James, be ye being filled. Follow me? So you're supposed to continually being filled. You don't, it's just not one time you get filled. And it's the same thing with the word make. So we don't just go to a class and learn this stuff and learn how to be fishers of men. We're actually turned into, and we become fishers of men. Is that different? Tap the person next to you and say, get it. Come on. We are supposed to change. We're supposed to become something. We're supposed to become fishers of men. Okay, so, you know, he like you said, he didn't say just, I'll teach you how. How many of you know how to do something? That's different than becoming something. Say, I'm going to become a fisher of men and women and children and old people. And most of those are men or women, so that's good. Yeah. All right, so now we're going to move a little bit more into the fishing aspect of this because there's all kinds of fish. How many of you have fished? There was a bunch of people that knew what trolling was. Raise your hands if you've never been fishing. Okay, hardly anybody. Okay, so you know that there's all kinds of fish and there's all kinds of people. There's fish that you won't catch them if you put a big old sinker on and go to the bottom of the river or the ocean or the lake. You'll only catch them if you go out there with hip boots on and these little flies and you catch them off the surface. There's some fish and some people that are on the surface ready for a little fly to be put in front of them. There's also schools of fish. And, you know, you guys can think, but what do you think of when I say a school of fish with people? What could that mean? Families. The subway. Okay. Don't know what that means. Could be. Yeah, all the people on the subway. Well, I think about it. In a particular church that we attended, they had multiple services. And it seemed like certain ethnicities would meet in those services together because they spoke the same language, they had the same culture, stuff like that. So sometimes ethnically, people will kind of move together in groups or in schools. There's also bottom fish, and they're fish that actually hang out on the bottom. In fact, the way that God made them, the way a lot of their mouths are and stuff, they just feed around on the bottom. Their mouth's on the bottom of the fish. I mean, they're made that way. You're not going to catch them with fly fishing. So let's go to the next one. Oh, that's me. It's not my brother. That really is me. I was 11 years old, and that's my dad. And I grew up in Oregon, and we lived about an hour and a half from the coast and an hour or so from over Mount Hood, if you've been up that way. And so we fished for rivers and boat fishing and stuff at the beach and things like that. But let's go to the next one. It's weird when I say for him to go to the next one, I have to too. One of my favorite ways to fish when I was growing up was to walk along a creek, just have cutoffs and tennis shoes and just kind of walk along and cast and plunk a hook into the water and have a nice juicy worm, you know, because you think a fish would like that. And I love doing that stuff. And I remember when I was a little girl and my dad was teaching me how to do this stuff. He said, you know, I was so excited because as we walked along, I saw this pool, and I could see the fish. I could see them, and there was like a big one. So I started running over there, and my dad grab me. No, 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 no. Why? Why? I want to get to that fish. And he said, Linda, they can see you too. They can see you. So you have to pay attention to the guys who know how to do this. And my father taught me lots of things. I remember when I threw it in, just like this picture, this fish is looking at this, and he's deciding, do I want to take a bite of it? And how many of you remember the feeling of a fish nibbling on the worm? The first time I felt that, I was like, I got one, I wanted to. And Dad's pulling my, no, don't do that. Why don't you do that? Because they're just nibbling. What'll happen if I pull it too fast? Pull it right out of their mouth. It's the same way with people. We're sharing with them things, and sometimes we think, oh, they're interested. I'm just going to go ahead and pull it. And we just pull it right out of their mouth, and then we wonder, where'd they go? They don't really want to talk to me anymore about this stuff. Well, it's because we didn't understand that nibbling is totally different than biting. It's totally different. And once you know that they've bit, then there's this thing called setting the hook. Okay? So let's go to the next one. Take a look at that. Was that funny? You know, part of the reason we don't know things are nibbling is because we're so busy moving around. And as a kid, especially if you ever taught a kid how to fish, they have to sit still. You have to wait. And I'm telling you, it's the same way when you're fishing for men and women. You have to be quiet. You have to give space and listen and watch and feel it. Here's another one. You know, when you hear people talking about evangelism and leading people to the Lord, sometimes I've heard people say, you know, how are other people doing this? You know, how does it work for them? I don't seem to attract people. You know, I'm not very good at this, or I'm just not a conversationalist. That's it. Do you think those are the right answers? They're not. Next one. He's got it. He's realizing. And maybe this is what you feel like after hearing Roger last week. Is that like, I am so excited. The harvest is ripe. I want to go. I'm so excited. But I just want to say, oh, wait. What kind of tackle do I use? You know? So if he is he using the right thing to go after a school of fish? Probably not. No. Okay, so we're going to talk just a little bit about, and I hope you're good with it. Are you okay with me using a fishing analogy? I mean, Jesus did. He did. So there's a bunch of different tackle, and we're going to go through some of those a little deeper than others. So just go with me here. In the weeks ahead, I believe we're going to be doing some more classes. Roger's shaking his head. And those classes, he's got a lot of curriculum, and we're going to mix some things up, and we're going to teach really how to follow up on new believers as well. So let's go to the next slide. Your tackle box is super, super important. And I said this was interactive, so we all stand up real quick. Okay? Go to somebody you don't know really quick. Raise your hand when you're in front of somebody you don't know. Quick, quick. Okay. Okay. All right. Shh. Shh. No talking. No talk. You don't even know this person yet. Okay? Raise your hand when you're quiet. This is a class. Okay, good. All right. Now, what I want you to do is get your lure ready. Okay? Put your smile on. I want you to turn to the person, and this is all I want you to do. I want you to tell them your name, tell them where you were born, and tell them how happy you are to be in this class, but smile the whole way through. Ready, set, go. Okay, switch to the other person. Switch to the other person. Keep smiling. Switch and do it back and forth to each other. Okay, as soon as you both done it, have a seat. Okay. You know, they say that smiling improves your face value. It does. Did you hear me? Hey, you guys are saying a whole lot more than I told you to say. I need you to sit down. I need you to sit down. You guys are talking too much. Too many smiles. You're scaring the fish away. Yeah. Okay. I want to tell you that smiling takes practice. It really does. And I want to give you an assignment this week. So put your hand on your chest or heart and say, I'm going to do this week. I'm going to smile at if I have kids, I'll smile at them. When I talk to them. If I have a husband or a wife, I'll smile at them when I talk to them. If I have a neighbor, I will smile at them when I talk to them. If my neighbor doesn't mow their lawn, but I wish they did because mine looks so good, I'll smile at them when I talk to them. So smiling takes practice. And I want to encourage you. I don't want to start any marital disputes or anything, but how many of you have ever, maybe you heard somebody else say this, maybe it wasn't in your own house, but you ever heard anybody say, it's not really what you said, but it's kind of like how you said it? And then you heard the other person, of course it wasn't you or your spouse or anybody, probably just people you heard, that they said, well, I was happy. I don't know why you took it that way. And then you heard another person say, well, then you better notify your face. Because nobody would have known you were happy by the look on your face. So put your hand on your heart. Say, I'm notifying my face right now that I have the hope of Christ living in me. I have joy of the Holy Spirit in me. And it's going to show through to everybody I talk to. Even if I don't talk about him, I'm just going to look like a happy person. Okay? It'll help. You know, body language, maybe you've heard these things before, but only, who knows what percent of your communication is actually your words? I've heard a few things. 7. Only 7% of what you actually say are the words you chose. So you could actually screw up, really. You could say the wrong things as long as your body and the tone of your voice say something different. Because what are they going to believe? Are they going to believe your words, that's only 7%? Or are they going to believe the tone of your voice, that's only 38%? Or your body language, that's 55%? What are they going to believe? Have you ever heard anybody say, oh yeah, I've tried that church thing, but I've met these people that go to church. They're so cranky. They're never happy. And you go to those people and you talk to those people and they're delightful people. But they're coming across cranky to the world. It's not the words. They could say, I've never said a bad thing. I've never. And I'd say, you didn't have to. What did your body tell them? When I say, come over here, John, I'm super excited that you're here tonight, and I really want you to come over and stand by me. I mean, what did my words say? He could go to court and say, these were my words. But I'd go to court and say, did she look like she meant it? Okay, so anyway, that was for free. Okay, so that's our body language. Also, another thing, you guys, if you're on the phone, go to the next one, okay? If you're on the phone, I would encourage you to stand near a mirror and look at yourself when you talk to people. When I did sales, I ordered big mirrors to sit in front of every desk. And these people felt really funny sitting at their desk with themselves right there. I said, get over it. That's what everybody looks at all the time. That's what everybody else sees. Why would you want to hide it? You know, I'll tell you this little sideline thing. Years ago, I got, remember when I got LASIK surgery, John? It was so stupid. I got this LASIK surgery, and I was like, when I came out from the surgery, I was like, amazing grace. You know, I once was blind, and now I can see. It was just so awesome. And then a couple of weeks later, I was kind of moping around, and he's not sure why, and he goes, what's the matter? And I said, I didn't know I had wrinkles. and then my loving husband said, well, if it'll make you feel any better, get ready, fasten your seatbelts. If it'll make you feel any better, I've always seen them. All right, everybody stand up. This is another interactive one. Do you like this? Does this, what are you going to say? No, I have the mic. I'll point you out. No. Do you think any of this could be helpful to just be a nice person? Maybe, the Bible says that it's the goodness of God that leads man to repentance. And we are God in the flesh walking around. And if we're not good and we're not kind, it's the kindness of God that leads men. Did I say goodness? I meant kindness. You can feel free to correct me. But we need to be kind, smiling. So now go to somebody different. Don't go to your wife. Go to somebody totally different. And this is a fun little thing to do. Shh. The instructor has not given you instructions yet. All right. I need a volunteer to come here. Come here. Okay. Can you all see us? You can stand right there. Well, you can stand right here or where, yeah. All right. I want you to follow what we are going to do here. I'm going to tell you that the way you shake a hand is body language. 55% of what you're about to tell this person is going to be already spoken to him by the way you shake your hand. So, everybody put your hand up like this. And see how we go here? When you shake someone's hands, ladies, it might feel weird to you because ladies feel like it's really ladylike to just go like this. It's not. You're telling them that you're, a rug or something. No. Okay. So look at this. I want you to see what it feels like to shake hands with a lump of chicken. Okay. All right. Give that person a limp handshake real quick. Just real limp. Okay? If it feels like a room temperature lump of chicken. It's just, that's the first thing when you come up and say, well, hi, nice to meet you. Well, it was nice to meet you. It's not nice to meet you anymore. Okay. All right. Let's go for the dominant. You want to know what that is? Watch this. Come up here. Okay, you tell me who is dominant here. All right. Now, another way to show dominance is like, I never understand why guys with these big muscles and stuff will come up and shake my hand. They'll just like, I mean, do I really look threatening? Yeah, but they grip until, like, especially if they get my hand with the ring. You know, anybody have that done? So if you do that, you're just like being dominant. And men, sometimes, I'm not a man, but I've heard this before from men, that a man will shake hand and then one will go tighter, and then the other goes tighter. Is that true? I think it is. Okay, ladies, or one of you give the other one a dominant handshake and give it a turn so your palm is up. That means you're on top. You're in charge. All right. All right, we're going to do a couple more. Okay, here we go. Tell me who's in charge of this one. Who's in charge? And when I come under like that, what am I saying? I'm
submissive.
I'm submissive. So we seriously, it's so nice to meet you, and I'm happy. I'm happy, and I didn't go all the way there. There we are. Okay, so give them a submissive handshake. And then say, yeah, but right there. Do you see this is valuable?
Yeah.
People do it all the time and have no idea. Okay, now I want you to just come watch this. Tell me what you think is happening here. You're watching? Don't I have an awesome model? Okay. Walter, it is so nice to meet you. I've heard about you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, what did we do? We came in, we touched right here, we held. I met his pressure, he kind of met my pressure. And what I said is, I think we could work together. No, I think we're good. So tell the person next to you with no words that you can work together with them. Thank you, Walter. Okay. All righty. You know, there is one last handshake that I didn't show it to you, but I'm going to show you right now. For those of you who are looking, you're going to get to see it. It'll be like, hi, nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. I think maybe you have cooties, but it's really nice to meet you. Okay. Did you see what I did? It's like, oh, it's really nice to meet you. Okay, it's nice to meet you. Oh, it's so nice to meet you. Really, really good to meet you. Yeah. But I don't feel comfortable being close to you. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying I have a space around me that's really guarded. So nice to meet you. Yeah. It's really nice to meet you. But you know, this is the thing that you use to cast and get your line out where it needs to go. Next one. Kind of have to go to casting school. We're doing that right now. We're talking about how to get it out there where it needs to go. Okay, next one. This is kind of a fun one. You know, nowadays they have fish finders. Do you know that Jesus had a fish finder? I think I remember a story of him watching some guys fishing, and they weren't having a lot of luck. And he said, throw them over on the other side. Yeah, on the right side. I said other side, yeah. It was on the other side of wherever they were. But he Jesus is a lot of things. He's a prophet. He's a king. He's many things. But he knew where the fish are. Do you think he knows where the fish are in our county, in our state? Do you think he'd be willing to maybe whisper it in your ear? You know, when Roger talks about going and knocking on the doors of these businesses and stuff and finding out what's the need in your area, where are the, what you call it, hot spots and different things. He's doing some preliminary questioning, and then he's going to listen to them, and then the Holy Spirit's going to blow on what he hears, and he's going to be just like Jesus saying, put them on the other side of the boat. Listen, put your hand on your heart. Say, God, I know that you love people more than I do. You sent your son to die for them. I haven't died for anybody. So I'm going to trust you. You will tell me what I need to know. Okay, in the book of James, it says, if any of you lack wisdom, raise your hand if you're like me. I lack wisdom sometimes. The Bible says, if you lack wisdom, ask of God, who will give to you sparingly. Oh, did I get that wrong? Liberally, generously. That means he's dying. He already died. He's dying to get the information to us. He's dying to do that. So, he is our fish finder. Stay connected. Okay? You know, another scripture says, he who wins souls is. So if you lack wisdom, ask of God. You'll get wisdom. And then what will you find yourself doing? Winning souls. So good. Okay. All right. You know what? The Holy Spirit and this fish finder, sometimes you'll be doing your best. And you think you're doing your best. And he'll say, like, tap on the shoulder. Look behind you. Go to the next screen, please. Yeah. They're right there. Right? How about the next screen? Have you ever been talking to somebody, you feel like you're not getting anywhere? Well, if you're fishing, I don't know, how many of you ever caught a sturgeon before? Okay, was that fun? In Oregon, they have to be 36 inches to keep them. And if they're over 6 feet, you have to throw them back. I caught one, and my dad was a good man. It was only 35 inches. So he made me throw it back because that's the right thing to do. But it took 2 hours to bring that 35-inch fish in. And I was a little kid. Can you come up here? You be the little kid. And put your hands out like you're holding a pole. And you're getting really tired. You're getting tired. My dad did not come and say, here, Lynn, let me take it. He didn't do that. He went like this. Hang on. Keep going. And he said, wait, it's ready. Let go. And he clicked this little deal because the fish is going to run. And he would let go of me. And he'd get a bucket of water. And this is years ago. I don't think they do that stuff now. Probably have better stuff. But he'd pour the water on the reel. Because when that fish took off, it would get hot and it would burn and it would break your string. So he'd cool it down, and then he'd have his arms around me, holding me, and it's like, you could do it, you could do it, you could do it. So she was awesome fisherman. So what I was going to say about him being at the bottom is that, you know, when you catch him at the bottom, you could feel like you have a log or feel like you're just stuck. And it takes so long to bring these kind of things in. And before they even move, who said that? Patience. It takes patience. But I know that I have witnessed to people, and you call it witnessing, but I've shared stories with people and stuff, and I just think, are we going anywhere with this? Is anything really sinking in? You know, we were talking about your mom, and your mom has dementia. And she shared with her, and before we cut out tonight, I want to pray for your mom. I've seen God. I shared with her, John's father couldn't hear. He was struggling to hear. He'd have to repeat everything over and over and over. But when it came the time, the appointed time, that God wanted to save John Michieli, the senior guy, John led him in a prayer of salvation, and he didn't miss a beat. He heard every word, and he said every word. And afterwards, John was like, oh, God, you're amazing. And he can talk to people that are out of their mind, and they'll hear him. So we're going to believe for you, for your mom. Okay, so don't clip the line. Just hang in there. It could be a sturgeon laying on the bottom, and he's going to decide, oh, I want to get up a little, and you'll go, oh, I do have a fish on. I do have somebody that's interested. Amen? Okay, next one, please. Okay. What time am I supposed to stop? 8:45? 8:30? Okay. Well, closed-ended questions. You know, you heard in Rahel's story, she said that Linda asked a lot of questions. Well, if we can learn to ask questions that cause people to answer with longer answers, it's really makes for discussions and learning and stuff like that. So how many of you already know what is a closed-ended? Raise your hand if you've not heard about a closed-ended question. Okay, there's a few hands. A closed-ended question is something that the person can answer you with like one word. And it's not really meant to be conversational. So if you happen to be leading a home group or something like that, anybody leading home groups? Anybody leading groups? Okay, this is super good for you to know. Sometimes people say, well, I just don't really do good with discussions. I don't think I'm made for it. No, actually, you probably just need to learn how to ask some open-ended questions. So closed-ended questions would be things like, did you finish your homework? You did? Good. You finished your homework. Good girl. Do you have any more? Do you have any more homework to do? Do you have any more homework to do? No. Okay. Are you proud of yourself? Good. Okay. How about this? What's your favorite part of school? Doing homeschool. What do you like about it? She's good. Doing your papers. Very good. Well, do you see what I'm saying? If you ask a question and they can only just say one thing, then it's a closed-ended question. And you're going to find that that's going to be more difficult for you when you're trying to share the gospel with somebody. So let's move over to the next one, to open-ended questions. And this one is, it's a hard habit to develop. Because even though we know what closed-ended questions are, we probably use them more than we do open-ended questions. Is that right? Shake your head if you agree with me. Yeah. I think for me, especially when I was doing training with my teams, I would say, okay, when you go home tonight, whoever lives with you, or if you have a roommate or a spouse or whoever, I want you to intentionally practice starting with, tell me why about this, or who, or when, or what. And when John says, how did you get to find all this stuff out about these people in the 4 minutes you were together? It's because they used open-ended questions. Okay? So you're going to want to ask people things like, what are your thoughts on this? How would you describe your relationship to God? Or tell me about your relationship with the Lord. If I say, have you been saved? What's he going to tell me? I don't know what you're going to tell me. You're going to say yes? Well, good. I'm so glad it says I'm a Christian right there. I guess I could have read it. But, if you ask people questions, just think about it. They're going to answer the question you gave them. But if you give them an open-ended question and you say, ask them to tell me a little bit about your walk, your journey with the Lord. I seldom ever say, when did you get saved? You know what I've heard people say when I've done stuff like that? They'll say, oh, I was baptized in the 3rd grade. No. Oh, I've gone to church all my life. But have they answered if they're saved? So we don't really know if they're saved. So don't even ask that question. Just say, tell me about your relationship with the Lord. If they're saved, they're going to tell you about the relationship with the Lord. Okay? All right, so let's go to the next slide. This one, I'm just going to barely touch on our net and our basket. And this, to me, has to do with discipleship. Because if you catch a fish, you have to take a net in certain situations. But how you put that net in is really important. Because they have tender little mouths in certain kind of fish. If you don't use that net right, it'll pull it right out of their mouth. And then off they swim, and you may never see them again. And it's the same thing with people. So we need to be cautious and careful how we dip in. They say don't dip in and chase a fish. If you chase a fish with your net, it's not going to work. But if you bring the net in front of them and bring it in, go head first, you're going to get them, and then it's all good. So you really could go fishing tomorrow, and some of this stuff to help you. But the basket is a whole nother thing, and that's where you put the fish after you've caught them, netted them, and you're bringing them back to the house of the Lord. And you're putting them in a place, and they're going to start plugging into discipleship programs and places where they can grow in the Lord. And we'll get them into Isaiah 61 and stuff like that. That's part of the basket. Okay, next one. I want to tell you this story, and I'll wrap this up. Pardon me? Yeah, this is in Israel, and I want to tell you about Tim and Shari. This is super, super special. Tim and Shari are in the front. You see John and I right behind them. When you go to Israel, a lot of people want to get baptized, but let's just wait for a second. Who knows Mike Huckabee? Some of you know Mike Huckabee. John and I went several years ago. We went on a trip to Israel. And we went with Mike Huckabee, and went with his wife, and his oldest son went. And we had tour buses. And we would pretty much ride with the same people in the buses all the time. And Mike has an amazing following of people that are kind of God-fearing people, but not necessarily Christians. And Shari and her husband happened to be Catholic. And they had another couple that was with them. So follow me here. It was a pretty cool story. We'd stop for lunches and we'd stop for dinner. And we frequently would just sit together. And John and I would sit with them. And they somehow or another, in our conversation, they found out that we had pastored a church. And so they called John Father John. So he was Father John. And we would go from place to place. You go to the Garden of Gethsemane, you go to Nazareth, you go here, you go there. And everywhere you go, Mike Huckabee would stop, and he would talk about political things, cultural things, but spiritual things. And he would open up the Word of God and share stories. And people would all listen because they're on the tour. So when we would get to primarily dinner time, I think they asked the most questions. But it was funny how we three couples sat together. And John's really a historian. He loves the Word God, and he loves biblical history and geography and all that stuff. So it seemed like every night was question time with Father John. And they would ask him, well, what did Mike mean when we were here? And what did this mean? And John would just share with them what that stuff meant. So we were towards the end of our, I think it was 9-day trip. And when we were going, like, everybody there was older than us. We felt like the youngsters, but they had energy, and they were going and going and going. And this one day, Mike let us have a little break, and it was when we started in busy, bustling Jerusalem and made our way to calm down to Capernaum and to Galilee, and where Jesus spent most of his life. And it just so happened that we were sitting, there was a pool, and then there were some chairs, and Tim was looking out at the Sea of Galilee. And John happened to walk off with another guy, and Shari and I stepped over to the pool, and we sat down. And she looked at me, and she said, I don't know what it is. It's like everybody here seems to know something that I don't know. When we go to Nazareth or go to the garden and stuff like that, it's like everybody seems to know something I don't know. And I just listened. Something I do a lot is the first of the day, I'll say, Father, I think you guys, the champions, have heard me say, let's send our antennas up. Put your antennas up. Lord, make me be sensitive. So when somebody says something, I can tell when they're nibbling. So she said, I don't know. I just feel like everybody knows something I don't know. So I said, well, Shari, didn't you tell me that you grew up as a Catholic? She said, yeah. And I said, well, I wasn't a Catholic, but I've talked to a lot of people. It seems like Catholics aren't really trained to read the Bible. And she said, yeah, we weren't. Our priest would read it to us. And I said, well, that's probably why you don't really get what's happening here. Let me ask you something, Shari. Have you ever been to a book signing? Like when somebody wrote a book. How many of you have ever been to a book signing? You go to the book signing, you've maybe already had the person's book, you've read it, but then you meet them, and you're like, you wrote the book. And you shake their hand, they look at you, and maybe they write something for you, and maybe they say a couple words, and you hear their voice, and you hear the intonation of their voice. And then when you go home, and you open that same book up, does it ever read the same again? That's what I told her. I said, you've been to a book signing, but it sounds to me like maybe you've never met the author. I happen to know him. He's like a personal friend. And I could introduce you if you want me to. And she's like, I would love that. And she put her hands out. She was 2 years, that was a few years ago. She was 69 at the time. Data shows that a lot of times older people are not as likely to get saved as like the 20-year-olds and stuff. Anyway, so she gave me her hands, and we started to pray. Gabriel, she looked at me, and tears running down her face. We're in the water, and she's getting saved. Eternity is entering inside of this woman. It's so cool. So she's now beaming and smiling, and her husband's over here looking off into the Sea of Galilee. And I'm so excited. But it's not really my place to go tell him. So I said, well, hey, tell me, what about Tim, your husband? Where is he at? She said, oh, no, he's not on the same page at all. He converted to Catholicism just to be able to marry me, so he wasn't really into this. He's a military pilot and stuff, and he's not really into that. I said, okay, fine. So anyway, she had to leave and go back to get ready for dinner or something. I had a few extra minutes, so I just slipped over and I sat in a chair next to Tim. And he was just straight out looking at Sea of Galilee. And I'm sitting next to him, and I just feel the Holy Spirit. I talk a lot, you guys. I mean, I don't know if you don't know me, but I do. Yeah. Thank you. I love you, too. I really love you a lot. I love your daughter. I really do. So anyway, he's looking out at the Sea of Galilee. I'm sitting there, and I feel the Holy Spirit's telling me, shh, be quiet. Okay. And he's staring ahead. He has sunglasses on, those mirrored kinds, so you don't really know what those guys are really looking at. But he's looking out there. And I'm just sitting next to him, and he said, I don't know what it is, but I feel like everybody knows something I don't know. And I'm, deja vu, this just happened over here, but I can't tell him because that's his wife's story. That's not my place to tell her. So one thing was said, another thing, and I said, have you ever been to a book signing? And I told him the same thing. And I said, it sounds like maybe you just haven't really met the author. And I know him pretty well. I mean, he's like my really close friend. I could introduce you if you want me to. And he said, I would love that. But the whole time, he never lost his gaze. He didn't turn and look at me. He didn't look at me. He just stayed there. And I said, okay. And I led him to the Lord, and I asked him if he would feel like he wanted to say, I like to ask people this. Would you like to say these words on your own, or would you like me to sort of lead you in it? And he said, I'd like you to lead me in it. So I led him in a prayer, and he was 71, I think, something like that. He's out there, and tears are streaming down this military man's eyes as he touched eternity. Okay, so just a second. Let's go to the next one. And we're going to wind up here. There's a few basic things about salvation. That basic is always basic, right? So if you look here, Romans 3:23 says, for everyone has sinned. We all fall short of God's glorious standard. Romans 6:23 says, for the wages of sin is death, but the free gift of God is eternal life through Jesus Christ our Lord. So really, one of the things whenever I do lead somebody in a prayer, and I'm going to show you a little prayer that I use, and I'm going to have you turn, and you're going to lead the person next to you to the Lord, whether they want to or not. Oh, no. Anyway, so the first thing is that we need to confess our sin and recognize that we're sinners, right? Okay, let's go to the next slide. Another basic is that we believe and confess that Jesus died for us. There's all kinds of different religions that have all kinds of gods, but nobody else's God ever died for them and rose from the dead. They didn't do that. But John 3:16, everybody say it. God so loved the world. I feel like we just had the upper room in all different languages. It was a whole bunch of different translations you guys have learned. It's very cool. Okay, Romans 10:9. Let's say this one. If you confess with your mouth, so it's a basic to believe and confess. Let's go to the next one. Let's read this. John 1:12. But to all who believe. So we're accepting Jesus as our Lord and Savior. Okay, everybody stand up. And I want you to go somebody totally different than you went to before. Don't start talking to them, though, because my time's ticking here. Just when you've got your person, raise your hand. Okay, so what we're going to do right now, who's going to be the believer? Oh, we have somebody seeking the Lord who has nobody to help him find him. I'll do it. Okay. So you are the seeker. You're seeking. Everybody say seeker. You know, I know the Bible says lost, but just a thought. It's not a right or a wrong. But if I tell somebody they're lost, is that a compliment? Keep that in mind. He's a pre-believer. He's a seeker. A lot of people are seeking things. Okay? So what I want you to do, who's going to be the seeker and who's the believer? Okay? So I'm going to count to 3, and you're going to nicely say, would you like to repeat this prayer after me? In fact, everybody say this. Would you like to repeat this prayer after me, or would you like to pray on your own? And then the seeker says, no, I want to repeat it after you. Okay, here's something really important I want you to say. This is how I do it. Remember, this is a different angle. It's not the only way, it's a different angle. But I frequently say to people, okay, I'm going to lead you in this prayer, but will you stop me if you don't agree with what I'm asking you to say? Or if you don't understand what I'm saying, please stop me. I don't want you praying something you don't understand. So now, say that out loud. Stop me. Okay. Okay. All right. Okay, so go ahead now, and believer, look up at you can all turn that way or up here, wherever you want. But I want you to lead them, and the other person, in fact, it doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman. I want you to say, would it be all right if I held your hand? And look at me. Look how I'm holding his hand. I'm just going to put my hand right there on it, and I'm not doing the full hand shake and all that. And it's nothing sensual about it. I'm just saying, would it be all right with you if I held your hand? Okay. All right. So I'm gonna pray, and then if you want to just say it right after me, and when you say it, don't say too long of sentences, okay? All right. Ready, set, go. So if you like to close your eyes.
What's that?
Have them close their eyes. All right. All right. Yes. Grab a neighbor and say, rejoice with me. Okay. We're almost done here. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, here's another example prayer. I want you to grab somebody totally different. Go to the other side of the room. As soon as you have your person, pick who's the seeker and who's the believer and lead them in prayer. Remember, say, please don't say this if you don't agree. Stop me. May I hold your hand? Would it be all right if I held your hand? Or maybe you put your hand on their shoulder. It's okay. Okay, seekers, close your eyes. Go for it. All right, have a quick seat. Let's go to the next slide. Yay! Okay, take a look at this slide. See, I told you it would work. I told you it would work. Okay? All right, everybody have a seat real quick. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, we're wrapping it up right here. When I was a little girl, I went to church, and my mom kept all the little mementos and stuff, and it looks like I thought I was saved in the 4th or 5th grade. But as I got to looking at the mementos, they said 4 and 5-year-olds. So my parents weren't Christians, but that's a whole nother story. But they wanted me to be a Christian, so they sent me on a Sunday school bus, and I went. And this is what I remember hearing. And this has stayed with me, and I want to share this with you because I remember leading a man to the Lord who we had a language barrier. He was a Hindu. I think he was Indian. Might have been Pakistan or something. I'm not super good with that, but he understood, but English wasn't his first language. So we were sitting at a little cafe table, and I felt like the Lord dropped it in my heart. Tell him what you learned as a little girl. So I told him, because he didn't know, some of these religions have many gods. They're polytheistic, poly meaning many. And so for them to receive another god's no big deal. And they might even be like, sure, I'll be happy to have Jesus in my bag, But that's not how Jesus works. So I remember just as a little girl that my teacher told us that we have a black heart. Well, didn't we just read that in the scripture? For all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. But I couldn't read that scripture to him. He wasn't going to get that. But I could tell him that we have a black heart and that my God, Jesus, died for my black heart and for my sin. And that when I believe that and I pray to my Jesus and I asked you to confess that to Jesus, then something miraculous happens and he changes my black heart and makes it white. Simple. You can lead a child to the Lord. You can lead anybody to the Lord with a black, a red, and a white heart. Is that good? We can know all the words, and I encourage you to memorize. Like the script that Roger gave you, memorize that. You're going to use that sometimes. You might use something that's like what I gave you. And if any of you want me to send you this PowerPoint, let me know, and I will. But if we just have it in our heads, people feel it when we talk to them. You guys have all heard that people don't really care what you know, but they want to know how much you care. In sales, we used to say, nobody wants to be sold, but everybody wants to buy. But, if you go into a store and you're looking for something and somebody comes up to you and you say, oh, no, thank you, I'm just... Yeah, because they don't want to be sold. People are like that. I want to read something really special to you. Can we go to the next slide? I'd like to ask you all just to close your eyes, and I'm going to read this. A group of business professionals were gathered for their monthly luncheon. As was their custom once a year, they invited their pastors to join them. After the meal, they'd scheduled a famous actor to provide some entertainment as people were enjoying their coffee and their dessert. The actor stood in front of them and dramatically recited lines from all kinds of famous plays and poetry. At one point, he invited all the people to give him requests. One elderly priest rose and he spoke. He said, "Would you recite for us Psalms 23? The actor, a little bit surprised by the unusual request, finally agreed. He said, "Father, I'll agree to your request under one condition. After I recite the psalm, I'd be honored if you would recite it too." Reluctantly, the elderly priest said, "Okay." So the actor presented a stunningly beautiful recitation of Psalms 23, to which people responded with enthusiastic applause. Then he turned to the priest and said, "Okay, Father, it's your turn." So the priest rather hesitantly stood, and he began reciting the famous psalm. "The Lord is my shepherd. There is nothing that I should want." When he finished, there was no applause, but just a hushed silence. The people were so moved by his simple recitation, they were sitting there with tears running down their faces. After a few moments, the actor rose up and he spoke. "Ladies and gentlemen, I spoke to your ears, but this man has spoken to your hearts. And here's the difference. I know Psalms 23, but this man knows the shepherd." Remember the parable of the wedding? When the master said, "Go to the highways, go to the byways, and compel them to come to me." You and I are supposed to live lives that are compelling, that are appealing, that are attractive, so people want what we have. Amen? Let's stand. Father, we thank you so much for this night, and we thank you that we know you as our shepherd. We thank you that there is nothing that we are in want of as we stay connected to you. And we just pray, God, that anything that needs to remain in our little gooly gums tonight and stick in there will stick. And anything that is to remain in our heart, that you would remind us of it this week with our neighbors, with our coworkers, with our friends and people at the grocery store, in the bank, in the post office, in the gas station, and everywhere we go. Would you all just begin to pray right now? Touch my heart, Lord. Just pray. Start praying. Just start praying. Touch me, Lord. Change me, Lord. Make me into a fisher of men. Make me to be what you want me to be. In Jesus' name. Amen. All right. Oh, wait. Next slide, please. Yeah, that's it. Good. The end.